On August 6, 1945, the Japanese city of Hiroshima was hit by a powerful nuclear bomb dropped by the B-29 entitled Enola Gay. This unprecedented attack hastened the Japanese surrender. To make the attack possible, a top-secret mission was carried out. Almost a month earlier, on July 16th, the heavy cruiser USS Indianapolis sailed from the San Francisco harbor, carrying a super-secret cargo. The ship carried in its holds a valuable cargo of enriched uranium and parts that would be used to assemble Little Boy, the name given to the Hiroshima bomb. The ship sailed unescorted and at high speed, bound for Tinian in the Mariana Islands, where it would unload the precious cargo. After accomplishing its mission, in total secrecy and without escort, the USS Indianapolis headed for Okinawa to join Task Force 95 in the Pacific. But, although the U.S. Navy dominated most of the Pacific Ocean at this time, Japanese submarines were still active in this war zone. At midnight on July 30th, 1945, Japanese submarine commander Mochitsura Hashimoto sighted the Indianapolis. The Japanese officer ordered the firing of 2 torpedoes at the USS Indianapolis. The ship was hit hard by the 2 Japanese torpedoes and began to sink rapidly. The order to abandon ship was issued for the 1,195 crew members to leave the vessel immediately. Nearly 300 men lost their lives in less than 12 minutes, the time it took for the USS Indianapolis to become completely submerged. Many of the survivors who escaped from the ship did not have life jackets, and there were few lifeboats for the nearly 900 men trying to survive. Even worse, the waters were infested with sharks, and because of the mission's secrecy, no one knew the wreck's location, and it was not possible to send a distress call. It wasn't long before the first attacks. Almost 100 men were devoured by sharks in the first hours after the shipwreck. There was another problem. The fuel from the USS Indianapolis formed a large oil slick on the water surface. This oil was toxic, causing the shipwrecked men to vomit, accelerating the dehydration process. Days passed with no sign of rescue. The men began to suffer greatly from dehydration, even though they were surrounded by water. But salt water, when consumed, accelerates the dehydration process of the body's cells. Many lost their lives drinking the seawater desperately. Meanwhile, the sharks continued to make new victims or feast on the corpses. After 4 days adrift at sea, the crew of a bomber plane happened to find the Indianapolis castaways and issued a rescue call. A Catalina seaplane was the first to arrive to rescue the men. Soon after, the escort destroyer USS Doyle appeared, along with other ships to collect the men from the water. Only 316 of the original 1,195 crew survived the sinking. Captain Charles McVeigh was sued for negligence and held responsible for the sinking and deaths of his men. Commander Hashimoto, who sank the Indianapolis, was his defense witness, and for that, he was given a more lenient sentence. But many relatives of the deceased crew members blamed the captain. This led him to suicide. The USS Indianapolis crew paid a high price to accomplish one of World War II's most secretive missions. To this day, the USS Indianapolis sinking is the greatest naval tragedy of the United States Navy.